All right, my angels. So someone asked me a question in reference to the story that I posted this morning. So I thought I would sort of respond as well collectively, because maybe more people had that question. So I was talking about, giving up on a journey. This is a message for a twin flame side note, giving up on a journey and saying you don't want to do this anymore. And I was explaining, if you're watching this one, you probably watched the previous one, that you cannot really quit on this journey, because this journey is not only what your soul chose, but it's who you are to the very core. This is who we are. But we also, of course, have free will, so we can say, and ultimately the universe will align with our wishes and with our desires, because again, we have free will. So someone asked me, but if I really don't want this, right? And remember always, who doesn't want that? It's the ego, not the soul. But if I don't want this, if I cannot do this anymore, how will it look like? Does it really mean that I cannot never forget about this man and that, right? So I sort of want to give you a visual. If that's ever a decision, before I do, it's not a decision that should be taken lightly. If you are one of those people that come to me on sessions and I am your healer and we walk through this journey together and I guide you through this journey, I mentioned this in a previous video, I would always say to you, learn to rest. Give yourself a period of rest. We are allowed to rest. We are allowed to say to spirit, go slower, right? I'm not comfortable with what's going on. I want to rest, right? And I want to live a bit of a more of an ego life for a moment, and not the search of a soul. I want to relax, right? And figure myself out, which is always something that we can do. But if you ultimately on this journey reach a point when you say, I do not want this. I do not want to walk the path. Although, again, you guys, it's difficult for me to say this to you, being who I am and knowing what I know. And if you say, I don't want to walk this path, where do you go from there? This path is part of us. We don't walk it just to get into union. We walk it to reach wholeness. And it's usually women who, I'm sorry to say this, but it's true, usually women who say that don't want this journey are women who are really stopping on a mid-level of this journey, because no one on a higher level of consciousness, on a higher level of this journey would say this, because we already understand that this journey is not about being reunited with the physical form of our divine masculine and being together in an actual relationship, but it's about wholeness. It's about Christ consciousness, right? So that itself means that you have still much work to be done, and I always would invite you to rest and then try to do that work. But if you really, session after session, month after month, cycle after cycle, you continuously would say to me, I want to quit, I don't want it, which is fine, it's fair, it happens to, some people, because sometimes the soul maybe underestimates what the human ego can do and can achieve, and it's absolutely fine. There's no rush, there's no judgment. We have infinite numbers of lives that we can experience to reach where our soul wants to reach. So if you say that I don't want it, I want to be aligned with a soulmate, I didn't choose this life, again, I've mentioned this before, yes, you did. Your soul always chooses this life. But if that's really the case and you're insisting and you're asking me how it would look like, so in my experience and in how I would as well, what I received in downloads as well, first of all, yes, you can. You have free will, right? So let's say you say it, I don't want it. I would never recommend any practices to seal that. I always say this to you guys. One of the worst karmas that can ever be out there is to perform cord cutting ceremony on your twin flame. It's like cutting yourself from you, from the essence of you. And it's horrible karma. Don't ever do that. It will only confuse you as a soul. My truth. But if you really want to give up, I would say that if that's something that your ego desires to do and you want to do, and it's your decision, first couple of cycles, it may be that it will be returning, right? Because if it's not on your highest, most aligned timeline, universe and your spiritual guides will constantly return to this topic. And are you sure? It may be that the moment you decide that your masculine will return for a check-in, he will feel that subconsciously as well, that you wanting to give up on the highest, most aligned timeline for both of you. Because you have to realize that we lead the way, we are the lighthouse. So if you take that decision, you take that decision for both sovereign souls. Masculine cannot power through if the feminine decides to quit, right? It will never happen. So if you're quitting by default, we lead the way, he will be quitting this journey as well without something that is his choice, right? So by partially you have your own free will, but you have to understand that we are one. So you're taking that decision for him as well. But if you take this decision in couple of cycles, it may be difficult, it may be returning, it may be you may be guided towards reconsider. But ultimately, and I always say this to you guys, whenever we say no to something, we resist one cycle, we resist second cycle, we resist third cycle, our guides are here to be there for us. So they will ultimately say, all right, whatever, right? So let's discuss what you can and cannot remove from your world being on this journey. What you cannot remove and what you cannot deny, and you will never forget, is that this person is the other half of you. So they will always be in your energy. Their energetic imprint, it's what we talk about when you're truly on a journey, true divine twin flames, true flames. From the moment of activation, so from the moment we meet our divine counterpart and from the moment of first intimacy, we're permanently in each other's energy. So the imprint of this person, whether you consciously think of them or not, you feel them as if they were in the room, always, right? So that will not go away. That will never disappear. The fact that you have the other half of your soul, that you will always be somehow connected, telepathically connected through that red thread and red cord that, by the way, it cannot be severed, that will never go away, right? However, if you truly, constantly, repetitively say no, cycle through cycle after through cycles, they will accept your wish and they will grant you your wish, which means that you may be aligned with a soulmate. You may say yes to a soulmate, to a relationship, to a soulmate. You will choose however you want to pursue your path. You won't definitely reach your highest timeline because that's something that is sort of a given with our counterpart. But you may reach something, one level below, so you can have a happy life. You can, manifest a soulmate, ask for a soulmate. You can have a fulfilling life, decide what is it that you want to do in this life. And ultimately, this energy of this person, they will always be with you. You will always feel them in a room, in your presence. But you will gradually stop removing them from your mind, right? As we heal, it happens as well. We don't think about them, but they're there, right? But we don't actively engage in the act of thinking when we're whole, when we fully ready for union, when we release. So you will, and it also happens, and however long you are on a journey, whether you ever consider giving up or not, every feminine will know that as we progress on this journey, the more we haven't seen our masculine as years go by, naturally, because we are human beings, we release them somehow from our thoughts, right? Because if you haven't seen someone or heard from them, spoke to them for a year or 2 or 3, and it's very individual, right? Because separation, as we know, it can last minimum 2 to 3 years, but it can be up to 6, 8, 10 years. It's your individual journey, how you approach it. But in that separation, it's also very individual. Some masculines check in every 6 months, or every here and there. It's quite rare for a masculine not to reach out and not to check in and not to have a bit of a conversation, even if it's just through messaging, more than 2 years, for the strongest souls, right? Not to have that check-in or to meet one another, it's rare, but it happens sometimes. Literally, you can go on years without even hearing from them, right? So naturally, as years go by and we haven't seen them in the physical, we haven't heard from them, but in a sense, their voice, their scent, their energy, you forget. And it's something that masculines, you can realize, and you should realize as well, that the more you don't reach out to us, and sometimes it's needed for the feminines who are very much attached, if you don't reach out for us, ultimately, it's not just the healing that you're doing that removes the longing, but it's also the time that passes by. If you haven't seen someone for so long, yes, you crave them, yes, they are in your energy constantly, right? They speak to you, hear them, you feel them in the room. It feels like if they were in the other room of the apartment, the house, wherever you live, but it's no longer that alive. It's no longer that present. This is why we also say that separation is needed, because in the first stage, in the in and out, because they constantly return, they disrupt our process of healing. This is why in separation, they really truly need to disappear. But the longer they are not there, we just naturally sort of it becomes, I don't know how to explain this to you guys. I myself experienced a long separation with absolutely zero contact, right? Long periods with absolutely zero contact. So it becomes sort of a surreal, right? Surreal. It's like they're there, and it maybe sometimes we usually don't follow them on any social media. We completely detach, but sometimes, I don't know, like an old photo pops up, or the suggestion, it's always divinely orchestrated, and you look at them, it's like, who is this man? It's like it's me. I know, I understand, right? But it becomes surreal. It becomes, I don't even remember the your smell and the touch of your skin and the tone of your voice, because these things are in the physical. So on some level, it's deeply imprinted in our soul, but we forget. Right, we're humans. The remembrance is the human part. The soul always remembers the frequency of a soul, but the voice, the avatar in this lifetime, so the skin, the voice, the scent, the way of being, the movement, the laughter, we forget. Right, we forget, and as you forget, it becomes easier. So if you really decide, and like I said, cycle for cycle, it will always be there. You will always have sadness within you, because again, what did I say to you guys? If you want to quit, it means you haven't reached wholeness, and until you haven't reached wholeness, you will have these emotions that rule you and rule your ego. So if you quit on this journey, there will always be, not because you're not with them, but because you haven't completed the journey, there will always be a sadness within you, an emptiness within you, a lack within you. So whether you are with a soulmate or not, in moments that matter to you, to your ego, like birthdays or maybe some anniversaries or moments of celebration or moments of sadness, your mind will go to them automatically. No one ever compares. No higher soulmate ever compares. And this is why I always say to you guys that this is only my universal truth, my perspective. It's a bit egoistic to choose to be aligned with a soulmate, and that soulmate doesn't have a twin flame. So for that soulmate, you will be the forever happy ever after, and for you, they won't be it. Right, so it's a bit of again, but giving up, it always comes from ego, always, and we have to accept that. We have the right to do it, but it always comes from ego. I hope that answers that question. And yeah, if you are in a twin flame journey, if you're having these thoughts, I do really encourage you guys to sign up for a session with me and have a chat and work through this, because you cannot release it. So my truth is that if you take that decision, yeah, you will numb the pain, you will swipe it under a rug, you will live your life with a soulmate, but it will never go away. It will never go away. It will always haunt you, and you will have to, go through the same rodeo in another lifetime. So since we're here already, it's just better to wrap it up in this one. So yeah,